All right, here we go. Uh, Welcome to my channel, Fantasy Thinker. And today I got my good friend Varsha and podcast partner with me here. And we are going to be talking about The Crippled God today by Erikson. I finally finished my reread at the end of August. And Varsha, you finished this when?
I think it was early this year or late last year.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Early this year, you finished it for the first time, right?
Yes.
And so we've been trying to get together to talk about this book for a while. We did Dust of Dreams a couple months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and so this is once again a full spoiler delve into my notes, and you have notes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I
Yes,
do.
into our notes to see if we can remember what we were thinking when we when we highlighted these sections, or just in my case, I kind of like underlined them in the book.
Nice.
So as you can see, my book's all beat up, and so I have no problem writing in it.
Yeah.
But for our viewers, I do have the Kindle open with all my notes highlighted, and then as we go through, we can talk about these sections and see if we can come up with stuff that we what affected us, what we thought about while we were reading this book, and what we may have forgotten about,
Yes.
because it's pretty thick and there's a lot of information in here, and it's a wrap up to the whole series. So of course this is spoilers for everything, everything Malazan. This is spoilers for. Uh, so just to get into it here, sharing my screen there. And of course, we start right off with book one. There's no prologue in
Mm.
this book, which is a first for the whole Malazan 10 book series, because I guess Dust of Dreams and Crippled God was kind of written as one volume, and had to be split up into two just because of the size. Um, so right off the bat, um, I'm going to the first poem right in the whole book. And this is kind of a personal thing, because this is the poem that my brother made a song out of, um,
Mm.
on his album, for named Adjacency. Traumas Are the Ideal. He made a song out of this poem, um, The Religion of Rage. So I just made a little note there because that was kind of fun, um, uh, to uh, to see that again. And I didn't know if you had any notes about these poems in general for this book.
I probably did, but I forgot to bring my notebook. For our listeners, I came down in a hurry because I missed my morning alarm and stuff. Can we pause recording for 2 minutes while
Oh,
I go
sure.
grab it? Yeah, I'm so sorry, Jared.
There you go. All right, so here we're resuming here.
Yes.
So Vasha, like I said, do you have any comments on some of the poems that we start out with? Because we have this one and a poem before chapter one, and as
Yeah.
well.
For
Uh,
this one, I have marked the end. Oh, the actually no, I didn't mark anything in this one. I have marked the end of chapter one. Right there.
oh, okay.
Yeah. The 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 days I feel mortal, I so hate. The days in my worlds are where I live forever. And should dawn ever arrive, I will to its light awaken as one reborn.
Nice.
I don't think I quite know what that means, but it spoke to me, so I marked it.
Yeah, I really I enjoy his poetry. At the beginning of each of
I'm sorry.
these
Hmm.
chapters and stuff.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the fact that he has one for the beginning of each sub book,
Yeah.
and then also additional one for beginning of each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And um, you wonder who's in this case who's speaking. You know, the
Yeah.
days I feel mortal, I so hate. Um, is that a god speaking, where a god would feel mortal some days and hate that, or is it just somebody who um, is feeling their mortality? You know, in
Mm.
general. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of interpretations there that could
Yeah.
come out of that.
The days are where I live forever. I think the days in my world. It does feel like someone who says when I have bad days I feel I hate, and when I have good days I feel like I can live forever. But I don't remember the beginning of this poem, so I'm not entirely sure if that's right.
Yeah, me either. And it could be. Of course, we all have this feeling that's related to the content in the chapter itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you'd really have to delve into it though
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know exactly what the poem is talking about, because you don't know where and when in the chapter that these specific lines would be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But
I,
gives you
did
grief.
Did you do that during your reread? I didn't do too much of that. Like I've heard Erikson say in several interviews that this that the epigraphs are tied to the themes of each chapter, right?
Mhm.
And so I guess I didn't know that until about half of the series. It makes sense. Probably should have known that even without being told. But I didn't like go back to the epigraph and see how it tied back to the chapter each time I read it, because barely remember it by the time I got to the end. So I was curious if during your reread, but that's something I intend to do during my reread coming up later this year. But is that something that you spend
Uh,
time on?
no, I didn't actually. I kinda wish I did, but then on the other hand, that would have
Yeah,
taken me a lot more time
yeah,
to actually complete the reread, because, it's been like 10 years since the first time I read it,
yeah, yeah,
and I, uh, uh, I was so involved in the story that
yeah.
I couldn't stop, and I didn't wanna have to go back and interpret the
Right.
poems,
Yeah.
but you get this feeling as you're reading them that they matter so much though,
Mm, yeah.
and, I just love that about them, and, just looking at this now, you can see, the words, that no matter how narrow the strand on your private shore, those words, of course, you kinda think about the shore, the sheik guarding the shore, and you got all these
Yeah.
images in your
Yeah.
head, and it's just really fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the next thing I had in that first chapter, is the, yeah, right, the next page, the drawing of the 2 daggers,
Yeah.
by Cotillion, and, of course, that's major foreshadowing for near the end of the book where he stabs the Crippled God.
Mm,
Um, and it's just like that, his gaze fell to the blades, and I did that just like I was just like, I know that's gonna happen because this was on my reread, so I knew what
yeah.
was going to happen. But just the fact that he says it right in the first line in the whole book, like, oh wow, okay, that's gonna come up.
Yeah.
So that just stood
That's
out to me right
important.
off the bat. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I have a few highlights in this chapter, but I think mostly around, I think, how the sentences um, are constructed, I guess. Like this one, for instance, I think it's a bit down below. Like I won't go through all of them, just as an example of the kind of thing I highlighted.
Yeah.
He sheathed his daggers, and you know what they can do to themselves. The head cocked, strands of hair dangling and drifting. Arrogance, competence. Cotillion snapped in reply. Doubt me at your peril. So, I mean, just, I guess, clever exchanges like that, or information, I guess, that I think might become important for later. That's the stuff I've highlighted.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting because he's talking to Edge Walker, who was, the guardian of the Shadow Realm, basically,
Yeah.
and who's, of course, been around a lot longer than Cotillion has, but yet Cotillion shows this arrogance and this confidence that
Yeah.
that you wouldn't normally give to someone who's new at the job, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and was, not too long ago, a mortal person, but
Yeah.
it's
Not
very
too
interesting.
long ago.
Um, Up to a couple pages later, I had this section here highlighted. It says, I have nothing with which to bargain. What brings you to me? No, I see that. My broken servant cannot travel far even in his dreams. Crippled, yes. My precious flesh and bones upon this wretched world. Have you seen his flock? What blessing can he bestow? What not but misery and suffering? And still they gather, the mobs, the clamoring, beseeching mobs. Oh, I once looked upon them with contempt. I once reveled in their pathos, their ill choices, in their sorrow, luck, their stupidity.
Mm.
And I read that. Oh, and it keeps going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I highlighted the whole
Yeah.
section here, and
Yes.
it was. I believe this is the crippled God speaking right here. Um,
Yeah, I think so. Right?
and
Yeah.
from what I remember, this is the beginning of the book, and this was like a long time ago that I read even the reread of this, which is back in like July or whatever.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay. Hmm.
but I believe this is the cripple God speaking, because he's saying stuff like, "Need I tell you of my pain? I look
Mm.
in your own eyes and I find the answer." So it's him, um, kind of relating to his followers, who he doesn't actually like all that much.
Yeah.
Um, and he, but he realizes they're as broken as he is, and he's like he's saying that he's the only God that answers actual prayers,
Mm. Yeah.
and that he actually understands them because he is they are like him.
Yeah.
And I think that's because so many of the gods that we've run into in this story so far, they kind of look down on mortals,
Mm.
you know, as bothersome,
Yeah.
as getting in their way and stuff like that. And it's like we've seen the crippled God try to use people in a certain way throughout the thing, but he's also, um, in this position in this book in particular, where he's relying on people,
Mm.
rather than using them, and he's he's uh, he's looking for this, this relation with his followers, um, even though he doesn't like him any more than he likes
Yeah.
himself. But he's also talking about how much he dislikes himself as well. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm trying to put this stuff together, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't remember too much of his perspective. I think this is the first time, right? The Dust of Dreams doesn't have any of these. So I guess I was a bit surprised, and also uh, it was nice to see this. Basically, it was a nice surprise. But my eyes drew to the last two lines that you highlighted from this on the next page. Uh, I think forgive the cough. It was meant to be laughter. Go then, ring your promises with those upstarts. So he's saying it's fine if you don't want to come to me. Go to those upstarts with your prayers. Is
Mhm.
it? And then this one, that is all faith is, pity for our souls. Ask my servant, and he will tell you. God looks in your eyes, and God cringes. That-
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff, and that's that affected me in a way that because you just don't get that perspective from any of the other gods
Mm-hmm.
at to this point,
Yeah.
and you get, you do get a little bit from Male
Mm.
when he takes on the role of servant to
Mm.
Tahol. You get that perspective of
Right.
how he's taken on that role for a purpose, to put himself in the shoes, I guess,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even though he's never in any real danger compared to what the crippled god is going through. Um, but other than, he gets surprised a couple times
Mm-hmm.
by Featherwitch and what have you. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
uh, but uh, but this is definitely a unique immortal perspective. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't remember. Is the cripple god, the Camisod is his name? Is he considered an elder, or is he?
I don't think so. Like, I'm not sure that he would fit in this world's pantheon, and they do incorporate him at some point, right? Uh, that happens in Memories of Ice, but I we don't know whether on his world he's an elder god, but here I guess he's just an alien god, and that's the only
Right,
characteristic that is attributed to him.
right. That's
But
right. Yeah, he's
yeah.
alien. Yeah,
Hmm.
he's different in that manner.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, then Paran being the master of the deck of dragons
Hmm.
forces him into the
Yeah.
pantheon, basically,
Yeah.
by including him in the deck, and
Hmm.
that's right. So once again, that makes this even more interesting perspective, getting his perspective on followers and on how he relates to them.
Yeah. 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 Like, he's basically saying there's nothing that I can do for you other than just pity you, and like that's it. That's all you need from a god, to acknowledge your pain, right? That last line, that's why it stood out
Yeah,
to me.
that's right. Yeah, nice. And then let's see here. This is the more conversation between Cotillion and Edgewalker. Um, I had no, someone cut out my unease, please. Make clean the incision. Take out what's ill and leave me free of it. We are sickened by the unknown, but knowledge can prove poisonous, and drifting lost between the two is no better.
Mm,
Um,
that's cotillion.
yeah, I think so.
Mm,
It's easy if, yeah, I forget what he's talking about here.
let me see if a lot of these are just highlights I have to. I don't have additional notes, so.
Because then he says there's more than one path to salvation. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, because he's kind of talking to himself right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because
That's
yeah, he's because
it's
Edgewalk said he wasn't a healer, um,
And
and
Edgewalker calls him usurper, or no, the dragon calls him usurper.
yeah, yeah, because he is kind of. Um,
Yeah.
but his point is that knowledge can prove poisonous. I thought that was just a very interesting line. Um, but even though knowledge can prove poisonous, you're also sickened by what you don't know.
Mm,
So where and he's drifting lost between the two, which doesn't seem to be any better at all. And I
mm,
think that's a kind of a grim outlook on you know knowing things for a purpose
yeah.
and being ignorant and um like so what's the worst poisoned. What's the worst situation?
Yeah.
Being ignorant or being poisoned by knowledge that you might not have wanted in the first place. Um,
Yeah. Difficult questions all
yeah,
around.
so that it's just stuff that made me think, just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
jeez,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have that bit highlighted too. And
Next we got I like that. Yeah, Male was saying that Onos Tulan possesses depths that Ola Ethel cannot hope to comprehend.
yes.
And that's kind of foreshadowing for what's going to happen later on.
Hmm.
Um, but with Onos and between those two,
Yeah.
those two, they have a history and they have some issues to work out later on in the book. And so I knew that going in. I was like, okay, yeah, I remember this on my reread, so I know that's going to be key
Mm.
for later on. Uh, and I didn't know if on your through your first time if you recognize the connection between those characters.
I didn't. It's I don't remember what I thought, but it makes sense. I probably did one of well, I probably cheered for the Onos Tulan shout out here because I'm a fan. And also excuse me, she's sort of trying to figure out the future of the Imas, right? The Tilan Imas specifically. And oh no's, we don't know yet, might play a role, or if any of the Tilan can play a role, it might be him. So sort of makes sense, but I doubt that I caught the connection right here.
Yeah, it would have been a tough one to just to latch
Yeah.
on to
Yeah.
if you weren't forewarned. And then, of course, this is when Camisad's name gets mentioned. Um, it's not, it's barely mentioned until now.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing it before this. That's why I highlighted it because I was like, is that the first time we actually saw the
Hmm.
Crippled God's name?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you recall a time before this, but I think this is the first time. It's pretty early on in the book. It's only on page 13 there, but
Yeah. I don't remember what. I think there might have been a mention in the previous books. Whenever the gods talk about him, they name him, I think. And I can't recall if this is the first time we've listened in on a conversation between the gods. I think everybody else calls him the crippled god, but the elder gods all name him.
yeah. Yeah, so that was just interesting that
Yeah.
they're talking about them. These these
Yeah.
conversations between the elder gods are always just fascinating
Yeah.
because it's like you get entertainment from their digs at each other,
Yes.
uh, but you also get a lot of you know sense of ancient history between them, and that this isn't the first time they've gone through something like this. This isn't the first time they've feuded. It's not the first time they've argued or cajoled or tried to be diplomatic with each other. It gives you the sense that we've been here before.
Yeah.
We've talked about momentous events before, and I just love the interaction between them.
Yeah. Yeah. Never fail to amuse.
Yeah, and then further on we get another mention of the siege of Pale.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I just like the throwback to Gardens of the Moon, and I like uh, I like how they're talking about uh um what's his name Animander Rake,
Mm.
and how he may not have shown his full power at
Yeah.
that point, and they're asking why did he hold back, why did he you know why did he sit there so long, why did he not do anything until Tayshrin showed himself and was ready to try him, um, and so they're starting to put together that Amanda had a plan
Mm.
the the whole time. There was something going on, um, and you're getting that little sense that even back all the way back in Gardens of the Moon, this was all in the works.
Yeah, yeah. And the plan was to help free the crippled god. Is that what this is a reference to?
Yeah, I think so,
Mhm.
or I don't know if it was to free him or,
Do
um,
something about him.
do something about him or put his pieces together,
Mm.
um, because he was spread all over the place, his, the pieces of the cripple god, and, so there was something that was wrong about that
Mm.
situation, and, which this kinda thing kinda led up to the events in Memories of Ice and the, um and part of the plan of Shadow Throne and
Mm.
Cthulhu.
Yep. Do we ever find out why the gods called down the crippled god when they did ages ago, and then they continue chaining him?
Yeah, I try to remember. Um, it may it I was a little confused about that too. I mean, obviously he did something to anger them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at the time, that was how they dealt with him. They called him down, and then they spread his pieces over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so obviously he wasn't that easy to kill as an alien god.
Mm-hmm.
They had to um, disperse him in order to keep his
Mm-hmm.
power level from down or what have you. Because I
Yeah.
imagine that it's what they mentioned earlier. His knowledge, his alien knowledge, um, was poisonous
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
to people, and so that wasn't something that I think the elder gods wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought his pieces got dispersed. Like I was imagining him like sort of a falling star that when he fell down, his pieces like spread apart in the world because of like it was sort of like a meteor strike. That's how I was imagining it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you could.
maybe the gods did that deliberately too. I don't know which it is.
Yeah, that's very symbolic,
Mm,
and you can definitely picture it that way. I could imagine that mortals looking at that would very well see it that way.
mm,
That makes sense. It's very picturesque. It's very mythic.
mhm, yeah.
Let's see, what else did I highlight next? I moved on to this highlight here. Courting is the art of growing like mold on the one you want. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh yes.
That's that
This
he's
is
talking about Ublala, right?
oh god. Yes.
Because
Uh,
he was who was it? Rolata, that was her name.
yeah.
Uh, she was like, "He might as well give up. I don't want him." It's like, cool. Is the art of growing like mold on your
Yeah.
one you want? That's only something who's only somebody who's been around for millions of years can say something like that, right?
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny. So,
Yeah. No, it's hilarious.
let's see. Next I had I could crush 1,000 nests under heel and did not make a whit of difference. What
Mm,
was he? What was she talking about there? Who was that talking?
yeah. Who? Is it still Relata? And yeah, I think it's
Yeah, it's
still.
still her.
Yeah. And is this? I guess this is her perspective, right?
Yeah, a few ants. She was talking about ants. Um, and that's she was saying that um let's see. And she's talking about later on, she's talking about what she left behind in chains and what is still shackled there. If you're chained up for a while
Mm-hmm.
and you get let go or you leave somehow, what is still shackled in those chains? And she said a host of forlorn virtues that she no longer has,
Yeah.
and she's dreaming only of vengeance. So that's kind of another way of saying um, I was imprisoned by my innocence,
Mm.
and now that I'm free, I have vengeance, and I have no longer have those virtues I once had. That whenever you're chained up, no matter what the case is, no matter how you are chained up, um, there is something that will always be chained.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
and now that's nothing ever gets completely free, you
Hmm.
know, and that's kind of how I took that. And no matter how many things of her past she crushes under her heel, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. It's too much, like ants.
Yeah. Is the previous paragraph Draconis and I dream only of vengeance is Relata? I don't know who. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like when you are chained, then I guess there's always a part of you that looks back there. It's
Hmm.
yeah, that
Yeah,
I like that. I like how you put it.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's and Draconus before that is talking about that he's this immortal being who's been around and has stepped on a lot of things in his
Mm-hmm.
lifetime, and
Yeah.
he crushes them without a second thought. And now that he's been chained up in Dragnipur
Mm-hmm.
for untold millennia, he's starting to feel he's starting to look at those things in a new way.
Yeah.
It's interesting. A lot can be inferred just from that one sentence
Yes.
and all the things around it. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the very next page, a thing of bones. So here, Draconus is talking about Ola Ethel, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think so. Yeah. Mistress of.
yeah, because actually he didn't know about the Talon,
Mm-hmm.
the ritual, and when he finds out, he he's mad at Ola Ethel because she was part of a part of making that ritual of making all those Talanamas undead, and I guess he didn't like that, and I found that interesting.
Yeah. Wait, did he not know about the whole thing? Like the was he
No,
entrapped in Ragnipur since
because
before that? Oh
he
wow.
was, yeah, he
Okay.
was,
I
um, and so he did not know about the Talon ritual up until finding
oh
out about it now.
I thought this was referring to the more recent uh awakening. Like there are some people that she brings back, right, with a more recent ritual, people who came after the Imas who she like but yeah, it's pretty amazing if they didn't know anything, like if you didn't know anything about the original ritual at all. That's interesting. And she played a role in instigating that too, right?
Yes. Yeah, she did. Yeah, I believe.
What your father want?
All the tamales. Yeah, she returned to him.
Yeah. Oh. This time my page numbers don't match with your Kindle edition, so I don't know
Yeah.
where in my book we are.
Still in the first chapter, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if I mean, I could be misinterpreting, but he did mention Talan.
But yeah, they're also saying something about he stood alone before Silver Fox, a thing of bones, and demanded. Like, who are they referring to there?
They
Thing
are
of bone.
referring to Onos.
Okay, okay. Then I guess he's referring to the original one
Yeah.
because yeah. Okay, so this whole thing. Oh wait, and is he saying uh and is he okay? I guess Olar Ethel. I must have completely misread this. I thought he was being annoyed at Silver Fox, but she wasn't being spiteful when she refused. She had a purpose to use them. And so I guess, yeah, he doesn't know about the original
Yeah, and the hag
ritual.
is definitely Ethel. That's who. That's what
Yeah.
she's called most of the time.
Okay. Nice. Learn something new.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote down. I think, but I'm not sure. He's talking about Ethel,
Yeah.
and I think he was referring to
Mm-hmm.
the ritual that turned him. Um. Yeah. Because he says the Talanamas were undead,
Mm-hmm.
and she nodded, and he said, so she never let them go. So that was what old Onos was bowing before Silver Fox for, to
Yeah.
let them go from the ritual in the first place. And
Yeah.
so that yeah, and that's the story she was telling to Draconis, because he didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
just coming out of a sword like you do. And then so let's see. Next I have this: no one remembers the nice ones, do they?
Who's this?
Oh, he's talking about dreams. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nobody remembers the nice dreams.
Oh,
They only remember the bad ones.
right. Like not waking up in time for a discussion.
Yeah.
Uh, I was late for a discussion while dreaming about being late for for a discussion. Uh,
It's just an interesting line, I think.
no,
That's
that's cool.
like
No one remembers, and that's like as bad dreams go. That's not even a really bad one. Yeah. But, cool. I'll,
then we move to let's see. Gruntle says worship is nothing more than the surrender to things beyond our control. He says the comfort from that is false because there is nothing comfortable in the struggle to live. And
yeah.
I thought that was an interesting line,
Yeah.
because Gruntle is the unwitting. Was it the what do they call him? The mortal? He's not a mortal sword. He's a
He is.
recipient of power from the Tiger of Summer, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and I forget what his Destriant is. It Destriant, or is it?
No, I
I
think
can't
he
remember what
was
his.
the mortal sword.
Okay,
Who
he is
was Heboric the Destriant, and
right.
there's what's the third one? Shield Anvil. He's
Shield
definitely
Elder.
not the Shield Anvil.
No,
I
he's not
don't
that.
think.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's yeah,
Yeah.
and so but he has his power from the Tiger of Summer. Doesn't even like him. Doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
like his god that he's getting all this power from,
Mm-hmm.
and refuses to worship him.
Yeah.
But he so he's coming from this point that he's it's interesting because he's not like a blind worshiper. he's mad about this whole situation, and he but he uses this power as to vent his rage, basically.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so I like that line. Though. Gruntel's a cool character, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love this line. I like the bit about uh the false comfort that it gives, that y- you're not really getting what you think from that, or sort of you're letting go of control to a certain extent, like surrendering and like letting go of your ability of, I guess, mentally controlling your own life. You're assuming that somebody else is, and that gives you some comfort because then you don't have to try and control anything yourself, or at least the things that you don't want to control. You're like, somebody else is doing this to me. So yeah, I like that statement.
Yeah, and we live in a very comfortable state, in the United States in general, and this, uh, but in that kind of a setting,
Mm-hmm.
um, there is, like he says, there's nothing comfortable in the struggle to live. If you have to get up every day to hunt your food, you got to find it. You got to,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing comfortable about that kind of a struggle in order to get the struggle for sustenance on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so and he's saying that the comfort from just surrendering to things beyond your control is a false comfort. And
Mm-hmm.
I, uh, I like that.
Yeah.
I find some comfort in that. Uh,
Not comfort from worship, but comfort from the statements about worship.
uh, Next, I have highlighted the past is a demon that not even death can shake.
Nice.
It's a cool line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just well, he's cartographer.
Hmm.
Isn't cartographer undead? Isn't he?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. So
the guy who sort of
that's
attached himself to the wheel
to the
of,
wheel,
yeah.
right? So that statement's ironic in this case,
Yeah.
and it looks like he's quoting, yeah, he's quoting Gruntle saying that, yeah, and so it's funny because Gruntle he seems to be such a brute in many cases,
Hmm.
but then he comes out with a lot of like wise statements, like he
Yeah.
just did the last two here.
Yeah.
So you can't underestimate him. And then the very next page, who is this talking now? We have let's see. Oh, she thought to hitch one side for a spit or two to punctuate the sardonic one that she just chewed on, but spit was worth keeping. Hold back one throatful for Hood's own face.
Ah, okay.
Oh, she was talking about her mother. I forget who was talking now, but she's talking about her mother. This is something her mother told her.
Hmm.
Um, she must have given the Ragged Reaper a bubbly bath the day her time came, a hair wash, a cave mouth spring run off the black, stinking phlegm that gush from just gushing out.
Yeah.
Um,
That's hilarious.
who was talking that? Who was talking about their mother like that?
Go back a bit, maybe we'll find out.
Uh,
Torrent? No, that's not
oh,
female.
breath. So,
Oh yeah.
oh, it was Masanjalani. That's who it was.
Oh.
Yeah. So I thought that was a hilarious take. You get a little bit of look into her
Yeah.
past
Yeah.
and how she was brought up and to look at things. And I love this idea of knowing the gods exist
Yeah.
and just being mad at them, or in this case spitting in their faces and being defiant,
Yeah.
basically. Um, it's it's definitely an interesting way of worship.
Yeah. Yeah. when you know, when you don't have doubt about whether gods exist, I guess you just prepare to meet them.
Yeah, and you don't always, it's not always about just bowing down and doing whatever the gods want. It's, it's, this is a case of you still keep your own dignity, I guess, no
Hmm.
matter what, even in the face of a god, with
Yeah,
of a being of superior power, of somebody who might have a say over your afterlife,
yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
it's just interesting, yeah. Uh, oh, yes, and then we have this guy, this Ruthen Good,
Oh yes, that guy.
who's
Good.
this was a good question because it was a question I had too. Um, are you a storm rider?
Oh, do you know Storm Riders from Esselmon's books?
Yes,
Okay.
and so I'm like, well, I'm just wondering where he came from. Like, who is this guy? Because he does some amazing things in the battle,
Hmm.
and eh, I'm just like, is he actually a storm rider,
Mm. He seems to have.
or
Sorry, go ahead.
did he get his powers from the storm riders?
Mm. He seems to have lived a really long time. Is that a property of the Storm Riders? Okay.
Yeah, well, somebody called him an elder too,
Yes.
um, in the last book,
Hmm.
and so I'm still. I know he's in. I think. I don't know. I think he's in um, Stonewielder in
Mm.
Elsamon's book Stonewielder, because there was mention elsewhere in this book about the wall. That he was on the wall with somebody else. I think it's Farad and Sort, I believe.
Mm.
Um, and I think that is mentioned in Stonewielder,
Okay.
which takes place, before the events of this, before the events of Toll the Hounds, even I believe, and before even maybe even before Reaper's Gale. Um, but so I'm just trying to put together. I guess I should look it up on the wiki because I don't have to worry about spoilers or anything like that. So
Yeah, you don't.
um, I try. It's tough to put together where he came from and how it relates to the Storm Riders in on the wall in Corel.
Mm.
Um, and because I know they're related, and I kept highlighting this sections like that that I would have to look up, and I never got a chance to.
Yeah.
But uh,
You still have some Esselmont books to read, right? After this, to read it in your rereads.
yeah, I'm reading Blood and Bone right now,
Okay.
and then it'll be a sale after that, and then I'll be done with the main 16, and
Nice.
then we'll see if anything else from Erikson comes out, but before then.
Yeah.
uh, the very next page, I have
There came a
that
tapping.
then came a tapping of a cane upon the rock, which of course we all know who that is. Um, that is Shadow Throne,
Oh,
um,
yes.
and I just I always just like to go, oh, he's coming, because
Yeah.
it's I think that was a scene with Quick Ben,
Mm.
and
He's got. He always giggles too, right?
yeah, he always giggles, and he has that cane. But that, of course, indicates that Shadow Throne's involved in this whole
Hmm.
thing. Don't forget. Here's a reminder. You know, and he's approaching Quick Ben,
Yeah.
and they have plans. So I like that little reminder of that. And that's the end of chapter 2. Did you have anything else before I go to the next?
Oh, I wrote a note here saying, "Who the hell are you, Quick Ben?" And I don't think we find out by the end of the book. Is isn't this yeah, like there's all this, do we get the sense from the end of this chapter like he is a um I guess was oh man, sorry. The Tist Andy, is he an ancient Andy person? Is that what he is? Because there is this, "You do your part, mother, let father do his, if he's of a mind to. But it comes down to us. So stand back, shield your eyes, because I swear to you, we will blaze." I mean, I think he's, if I remember correctly, he's throwing a challenge to the gods, who think that humans aren't useful anymore. He's like, "No, I think they are, and we're going to fight." But like it, I got the sense that he's half human and half Andy, and I don't remember what part of this. I think. Oh yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
don't know.
Oh, here we go. I think this paragraph. Darkness was knotting into something solid before him. He watched it for a time, saying nothing, although her presence was palpable, vast in the gloom behind him. If he'd wanted blind obedience, he should have kept me chained. And you, mother, you should have kept me a child forever, there under your wing. So I thought he's referring to darkness as mother, and that's why I got the sense that he's just Andy, but I don't know. Maybe he's just talking to his own mother and father.
Mm. Yeah, he's still quite mysterious because
Yeah.
we know that he has, way back in what book was that? House of Chains or something? We found a little bit more about his origin story
Hmm. Yeah.
where he,
He collected 12
got like
souls, right?
got
Yeah.
like 12 souls in him or something like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Memories of Ice,
Um,
I think that was. Yeah.
which is how he's able to hold so much power and why he's able to access 7 warrens or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and, I don't know. Yeah, I never understood his origin other
Yeah.
than that, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Um, yeah. Moving on to chapter 3, we get the mention of the adjudicators out from the east. Um, and of course, we know them to be the Forcrew Assail um, race, which we had heard about them, of course, in Dust of Dreams as well.
Mm.
Um, and but this was just a reaffirming um, of who they were and what they've done to the area.
Aliens people. Yeah.
Yeah, the
And
Calance, I think is the name of the area, and
yeah.
we're getting like a just a reaffirmation of who the actual enemy is here, of who the Malazans are going to be facing,
Yeah.
and who the and their little congregation of allies there,
Yep.
and because there's more mention of them in this chapter, um, where it says 50, 60 years ago the adjudicators scoured out all the other priesthoods, and you get a little description of them later further on that in that same page.
Hmm.
And it's just I have a note here. It says it's we see how long it's been building while the Malazans were busy trying to conquer the rest of the world.
Yeah.
This race, the Folkrow Sale, were doing this stuff down here.
Yeah.
So you get this sense of how long this has been building, and that the world wasn't stagnant while the
Hmm.
Malazans were doing their thing, in Darujistan and
Yeah.
Genobacchus, that the rest of the world was going on and doing other stuff.
Yeah. Building history. I guess the
Yeah.
letter, and I forget the name of the place where the greatest what are the three races? Andy,
Oh,
Leosan, and Singer. What is he?
the Adur, the
Yes,
yeah,
yeah. Their wars were also going on at the time, right?
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and I like that because um, I like how the world's not stagnant while you're paying attention to one story,
Yeah.
and that that there was just a bunch of other stuff going on, and uh, and of course I like how we got that little description of the fork ruler sail and how different they are there.
Yeah, double jointed. Do you
Yeah,
get the sense that they move like robots? It,
I thought it was kind of more like insects, but
mm,
I'm not sure.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Nice.
and let's see here. Next page, we have the assassin must never die. The shadows must ever remain. We hold the world in check. We are the arbiters of reason. It is our duty, our purpose. So you're getting a little
Mm,
look into um, that's the assassin for the Kachain Chamal, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that they consider themselves the arbiters of reason. These Kachain Chamal assassins. Um, and he's complaining about the humans being in charge
Mm.
right before that. Um, and so it's just a different viewpoint, really. That's that viewpoint is it's kind of alien in a way because it's just the Kachain Chamal aren't exactly um, they don't exactly have they're not very understandable in and of
Hmm.
themselves,
Yeah.
They're definitely a strange race to
Yeah.
be allied with, and I think this assassin, this Kachain Chamal, um, is trying to work out why they're being forced to follow humans, and that because I don't think because I think the what do they call it, the matron of the
Hmm.
clan
Yeah.
is doing something that's never been done before in this situation by
Yeah.
naming humans as their destrians in their shield anvils and their
Yeah.
the other thing. I forget the other thing. But
And I think this person or this Kachin Jamal changes their mind by the end of the book, right? Or I think even halfway through the book
yeah,
about humans. That's pretty cool to
yep,
see where he starts.
yeah, because he's not happy with them at this point. Doesn't understand why he's following them, and um, he says their throats are soft. I'll rid the world of them if I can.
Hmm.
And so yeah, we do get a turnaround later on, which is pretty interesting. Uh, and then the very next page, um, for Karula's sale was mentioned again.
Hmm.
They're the ones the adjunct is hunting,
Mm.
um, and that you get from Sin. And once again, it's a reaffirmation of what the adjunct was up to this whole time. And we also know that Sin is, of course, a very powerful mage, um,
Yeah.
and so we get reminded that she's involved, and we later on we see what she does.
Yeah.
uh, Pretty powerful stuff there. And we have this quote here. Oh yes, this was the one that
Yeah.
I did a little reading the prose section on
Yes. I was wondering why
before.
this felt familiar to me. Yeah.
And yeah, this I love this section because this was the prince and the princess,
Mm-hmm.
and they they're talking about the classics fairy tales
Mm-hmm.
of the prince and princess fairy tale, and how they're tales of narcissism and self-congratulation
Yeah.
and nobility's love for that itself. And
Mm-hmm.
that was such a it was such a brutal commentary on the fairy tale that it really stood out to me when this was said.
Yeah.
It's considering it's spoken between two people who have actually fallen in love with each other. So, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're mentioning these fairy tales, and one of them is a prince, and one of them, and so it's all just very um, relevant to their conversation and their situation, and
Yeah.
I love this section so much.
Yes. No, I like the commentary there. It's
Yeah, very cool.
very cool.
I think we're up to let's see here. Oh, almost at the end of book one here. Um, this was a this is a reference to the Gestal, which is the one of the things that the emperor right now, Malik Rel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, worships, and it's it's funny because it's an aspect of male,
Yeah.
and Malik Rel worships male, and he's in charge of the empire right now, and we all know what a bastard he is, and so, but we also love Bug,
Mm.
who is male as well,
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of like conflicting aspects of this god, and um this is it says here that he was whispering in the empress's ear, but whoever's viewpoint this is doesn't know yet. I don't know that he is the emperor now,
Mm.
um because that was something that happened kind of off screen, and not in the not to the people who are stuck on the Lether continent. This is so
Mm.
it's kind of funny. I forget whose viewpoint is this.
Is it?
I don't remember.
Oh, we're at chapter 4.
Yeah, chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneb. It's Kenneb. Okay.
Okay.
Fisk Kenneb, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because he's mad at the adjunct. He's like, she stole my future and my life and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, so he's pondering this stuff, and he doesn't know the true situation back home yet. Um, but I just like the reference to the Gestal. It's a reference to male. It's a reference to,
Mm.
of course, it comes up big in Esselmon's book, Forge of the High Mage. You get a lot of history about that Gestal
Okay. Nice.
in that book as well. So that was pretty cool. And then that's anything you got up to the end of chapter 4.
Up to the end of chapter 4. I had a couple of things in chapter 3 that I apparently liked a lot. The beginning of chapter 3 was a conversation between Shak Elal and the princess and one other person. They say at some point, let me see if I can find it again. Is whoever this is says, I think it's the um, princess servant, quote unquote servant, who does magic for her, says, "We hit something, Highness. I'm hoping it was Mail's head." And like this whole conversation is hilarious, I think, but that particular line stood out. And then I think there was this section, it's on page 124 of my book, but it's the continued conversation between um Aranict and Breeze Benedict, I think. Yeah, it's before the section on the children's stories that you had highlighted.
Yep.
And I think it's how the Lethery now regard the Malazan, how much respect they've developed for them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're talking about what happened, I think, at the end of the previous book. The Lethery had comported themselves with honor on that horrid field of battle. They had distracted the enemy. They had, with blood and pain, successfully effected the Malazan withdrawal. No, let's call it what it was, a rout. Once the signal sounded, the impossible iron wall became a thing of reeds. I think this is talking about the battle between Lethery and Malazan soldiers in, was it Reaper's Gale?
No,
Uh,
I think no, I think this is the battle in Dust of Dreams when
okay.
um they got routed by the one faction, that big faction of the Kachin Chamal in
Yeah.
Dust of Dreams, and the Lothari were the reserves in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says they comported themselves with honor on that hard field, they distracted the Tremaine long enough uh, for who else when the other faction of the Kachin Chamal that was under Gessler and
Mm-hmm.
Stormy came in and helped save them all. Um, that's what the Lothari did. They lost a lot of people there, um, being that distraction on that field of battle.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had this highlighted for that, I guess, because I think we see, and there was a bit of this in the previous book where the um, where Priest Benedict asks the Malazan sergeants to train his army, and they, so we see the differences in how they work and this, like their regard for the Malazan army here. I think that's apparent that. Um, yeah, I just liked how
Yeah.
it was done. Yeah.
Well, the key word was what they felt was humility
Yeah.
before the resilience of the Malazans in
Yeah.
front of those odds. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that was the part that made me highlight it. But
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool stuff.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah, and then we will move on to
Chapter 4. Well, actually, we
page.
are done with chapter 4 today. I
Yeah,
don't
we're
think I
done
have
with that. Yeah.
anything significant in chapter 4. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
have a lot of highlights, but nothing that you didn't call out already.
Uh, moving up to Kindle page. I'm not sure what page it is
Mm-hmm.
in this version of the book, but this was a mention of this was Sethel Ruin, right? That's his name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the elder just Taistandi
Mm-hmm.
dragon people related to Rake, and he mentioned he mentions Icarium's stupid gambit in Letherus, and it's why he never found her soul. No, she carried my eye straight to him. Oh, this is what's his name talking? Aristal.
Mm.
Um, where Featherwish stole his eye
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
him, and now he's spat out fledgling warrens and made of my eye a finesse for the Azath. He remains a single force of true unpredictability in this scheme.
Mm.
And so that was just a reference to what Icarium did in Reaper's Gale
Mm-hmm.
and what happened to Erastus. um, as well. And the but he also um, yeah, he also mentions like wards that Rake put down.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
When they released the Otatar dragon, right?
right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And Calm is not the only. Calm is one of the Fork Rail Sale, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So they're of course they don't trust her. You know, they don't. None of them trust each other, anyways. But
Yeah.
but I just like the mentioned of the events in Reaper's Gale and how they're contemplating what
Mm-hmm.
happened there
Yeah.
and how how tenuous all these alliances are and all these and how these events can change what their feelings about these alliances are going to be.
Mm.
Uh, fickle gods, fickle gods.
Not quite related to what we are discussing, but we meet the Folklore Assail for the first time in this book, right? We haven't met any of them in the previous book, at least not named characters. I thought all their names were really interesting, like Calm here and some other
Yeah,
ones. That Serenity is one, I guess. No,
yeah.
yeah,
Sister Serenity
yeah,
and Sister Calm and brother
yeah,
something or other, or whatever it
yeah.
was. Um, yeah, it was all names like that. Um, and yeah, we don't. They only mention the you know uh was it invigilators or something? No, instigators. I forget the name that they had for them, but
Mm-hmm.
they only mention them. They don't mention them by name
Mm.
like he does in this book.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then skip quite a bit ahead before I highlighted anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Why did I highlight this? Oh, because I highlighted this because I wasn't sure what was happening in this section, and I don't know what page it's on in the hard copy, but
Mm-hmm.
this eyes blaze like emerald beacon, and I said that right here. I'm like I was unsure what was happening here,
Mm.
because he's just mentioned that whoever she is, I'm not sure who she is, um, because it's just a quick section about yeah, I'm not even sure who it is. Like
Page 160 on this. It is. um, Ublala. Okay. I have some.
yeah, it's eyes blazed like emerald beacons. The second hand thrust free 30 paces. Oh, faint stood as if rooted to the ground, as if trapped as a rattling tree or thoughts of. Faint was the one of the people on uh,
Mm,
oh, what do you call that?
the wagon.
The
Oh,
wagon, yeah.
what was it? What's it called?
The guild there
Yeah.
that would transport anything anywhere or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Trigale Guild.
yeah, yeah, that's right. That Trigale Guild, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and she's here with something breath sweetness or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's something breaking out of the ground here, and I'm not sure what it is.
Is it? Um, is this the same section where she goes, a god that was a god?
Yes,
So is this, and there's a jade forehead. So is it a
Yeah.
part of the crippled god?
That's what I was wondering because there's leaves of jade and huge globes of fruit and a broad-shouldered man. Um, yeah, eh,
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened. I really
Yeah,
am not. I just I was just kind of wondering if maybe somebody can tell us what exactly happened there.
yeah. I don't remember either, unfortunately.
Yeah. So maybe somebody can tell us in the comments what that section
Mm-hmm.
means. um, and then I moved on to this section here. Um, when did praying achieve anything but silence?
Mm,
Anything but the pathetic absence filling the air, building like a bubble of nothingness in the soul. Since when didn't a prayer leave only empty yearning where wishes burned and longing was a knife twitching in the chest? Um, that's a pretty brutal um, look at the uselessness of prayer in this case.
yeah, yeah.
So that kind of rung out to me. Um, and uh, and this is calling upon no gods in this place. A curious warning. Yeah. And this was the guy following Torrent. This was Torrent following Ola Ethel. Of course, Torrent lost. He lost his whole tribe. He's trying to look over these kids, um, trying to. He's staying with Ola Ethel, but he's also secretly trying to thwart her if at all
Mm,
possible. And he has no. You can definitely understand his point of view there. Because of all the stuff that's happened to him. And he's traveling with this elder who has the power of gods, anyways. And yeah, what are you going to do? Pray to her? No.
yeah.
She's been
That will
tormenting
help.
him this whole time.
That will
So,
help.
yeah. Uh, and then we had further on. Um, let's see. Why is that not going? Oh,
Did it
okay.
hang? No.
Oh, it's the same highlight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. Let's see. Mappo. He
Mm-hmm.
stood between the world and Graham. Okay. Um, because the world was worth saving, because there was love in moments of peace, because compassion existed like a blossom in a crack of stone, a
Mm.
fulsome truth, a breathtaking miracle. I love that
Yes.
statement of compassion right there. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah,
Just a beautiful sentence.
I agree. That is a lovely line.
Yeah. And leave it to Mappo to think of something so poetic like that.
Yep. Mappo it is.
Yeah. And then a little further on, the uh, the strangers from the sea um, cast down the rulers of Colance, and they deemed what was necessary. And then the adjunct says a
Mm-hmm.
cull, and that just resonates so much to what her own family went through
Mm.
in Gardens of the Moon, and
Yeah.
what her own people did, what the Malazans did to the nobles of 7 cities. They did a cull, and they culled the nobles,
Mm.
and these rulers, these strangers, who we now know as a Fork Rule of Sail, did the same thing in Colance. And that is the irony right there, because they're going to fight the Fork Rule of Sail, and yet the Fork Rule of Sail, they did the same thing that the Malazans did.
Mm.
And it's a bitter irony.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought that was a very, very poignant.
Yeah. I love what you said. I didn't make that connection at all, and that line following it, and that word seemed to take the life from Tavor's eyes, because that happened to her family too, right? And
Well, that's what she was trying to prevent
yeah.
by sending Fellison away.
Mm,
She was trying to prevent Fellison from being a victim of that cull.
mm,
And of course, we all know how that went. That was,
yeah. 8 books ago.
yeah, that went horribly wrong. And so it's a very it's a heartbreaking line, and it's also a line that reminds us of everything that went on in earlier books, and it's also bitterly ironic compared considering going to what she's going up against.
Mm,
Um, and so it's yeah. Um, Next we got the adjunct Tavor stating right out
mhm.
what she's going after. She's going
Yeah.
after the heart of the crippled god. Um, and then I have highlighted when the spears of jade arrive, Highness, less than 3 months from now, if Benishah's
Mhm.
calculations are correct. Um, the I was trying to figure out what that means exactly. Because the spears of jade seem to be like a celestial event, right?
Yeah, I think throughout this time, there are these green stars that
Mhm.
are
Right.
getting closer and closer. I think to a point where sometimes at night, I don't know if it gets to a point where they see them during daylight, but at night, uh, they are soaked in a green light because of how close they are. And so, and I think we know later on, or if we find out as early as this section, that those are the um, all the souls that the alien god. He's also his own shield anvil, right? So these are all the souls that he has sort of. Uh, what is it a shield anvil does? Do they rescue? Not rescue. They
I think they kind of set them free.
right. So
Yeah.
these are all the souls that need their god back, and they are on their way here, trying,
Right.
yeah, return
Yeah,
to their
because
god
later
again.
she says if the heart is freed, then he can return to them.
Yeah, yeah, the souls of his
Um,
worship. Oh yeah, it's right there in the next line. The souls of
yeah.
his worshippers. The jade spears. What are they?
Yeah. And so it's so interesting that with you finally starting to put together this jade thing because y in way back in Dead House Gates, you're like, why does Hebrick have these jade green
Mm.
hands? And it's because he touch the souls of the crippled god, or did he touch a piece of the crippled god? Um, I was still trying to figure that out, and but we all know it has something to do with that.
So
And
in Dead House Gates, they come upon one of the pieces of
yes,
the crippled god, right? And Heboric touches that piece, and that's when his hands turn jade.
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
His hands that he no longer had.
Mm. Yes,
So
that's
all of a
right.
sudden, he has jade hands, ghostly jade hands.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is wild. Really wild when you think about it. Uh,
Yep. Mhm.
and let's see. We go to oh, this is when the Talana Mas
Mhm.
greeted Ruth and Good, however you say that,
Mhm.
as as an elder,
Yep.
and I thought it was hilarious that he
Yes.
cursed and he was not very happy with that. I just thought that was amusing. Uh,
Yeah. No, that's funny.
and yes, and here is a greeting to the adjunct from the crippled god, and it
Mm.
is from these Talana Mas.
Mm.
and it was the ones that they were traveling by themselves, and I don't remember exactly where they came from.
Are these the ones that Olar Ethel awakened?
I
Was it
Yeah,
her? But yeah, there was some second, like there was a ceremony in Dust of Dreams, I think, that awakened a bunch of Tulanimas who came after um Onos Tulan's time.
right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, they are those ones. But I couldn't remember what their connection to the Crippled God was.
Mm. Yeah, I don't remember either.
Um, but she was expecting them at some point,
Mm.
because she was relieved that they were there.
Yeah.
Tavora was, and it had something to do with. Did it have something to do with Masan Jalani's mission?
Yeah, she went looking for. Did she go looking for help?
Yes,
But what kind of help? I think it was something specific that she went looking for, or she went looking for something else, found them, and came back.
that's what I think it was. I think she was going for something else, and she ended up finding them.
Yeah.
And she came back with them. Um,
Mm.
I just couldn't remember why they greeting her from the Crippled God, unless they were, uh, yeah, unless they were in touch with the Crippled God through another piece of him. But I
Hmm.
couldn't remember that part. That's something else that we need to clear up sometime.
Yeah. Lots of mysteries still.
Um, and then there was a line further on that says, "She sees the fate awaiting us all should we fail." Shield Anvil.
Who's
Um,
which shield anvil is she referring to here?
you mentioned a district. Okay, then ask that one.
Mm-hmm.
Tobacco, are you sure? Well, she gets those nightmares every night. Who's having the nightmares? That's what I was wondering.
Mm.
I don't remember why I. Oh, this is the Destrian for the Kachin Chamal. That's who
Oh,
she's
that's
talking
Caleth.
about.
Okay.
Yes, Caliph. Yes,
Mm.
and that makes sense now. Now that I'm reading it,
Yeah.
because she's been given these nightmares by the matron basically the whole for
Mm.
almost 2 books now, and so um, the fact that the adjunct grasps this and understands it, um, once again shows what a forward-looking person
Yeah.
she has been this whole time, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it in this book that maybe we'll get to it and then I'll bring it up again if we don't have a highlight about it? Well, yeah, maybe now is not a good time. I had a question about Tavor and when we find out a certain thing about her, but uh,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like somebody asked her that right now, like,
mhm.
how'd you how'd you why did you take this on? Why this path of yours?" And she's like and she just says, "It's my business," she doesn't
Mm,
answer. She doesn't give a
mm,
good answer.
yeah.
Um, but, that's the end of book 2.
Oh, nice.
Um, so anything else from book 2 that you might have?
Anything else from book 2? Let me quickly check my pages. Nope, I mostly just have highlights with not many notes, I think.
Alright. So we'll move on to book 3, To
Yes.
Charge the Spear. Um, and then the first thing I says is, let's see this quote here. I got There is a great family, and they are rich in all things, in food and water. They seek us to bless us, to show us that the future still lives. They will promise to us that future. I have seen it all. And there is a mother who leads them, and all her children she holds in her arms, though she has never made a born. There is a mother, Rut, just like you, and soon the child in her arms will open its eyes. I dreamed of held last night, Rut. And of course, she is foreseeing
Mm,
the Malazans and Tavor specifically
yeah.
coming to them.
So, yeah, I was trying to remember. This is the snake. The
Yep.
Malazan army, as it made its way through the glass desert, also had a name, right?
Oh, uh, I don't know.
No? Okay.
Other than the Bone Hunters, I'm not sure.
The Bone Hunters. Okay. I thought they had a different name as they were making their, or like their uh their ordeal through the glass desert, I thought had a name, but I couldn't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure what they're because they were trekking through that desert um, as a beacon
Mm,
to the enemy in order for all the other allies to get in place without them knowing really.
yeah.
Um, and but this was part of the snake. This was the vision of the snake, um, and this was them. This was her foreseeing them getting that great family, um,
Yep.
and which of course is just heartbreaking the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
uh, uh, but this is still in book 3, and it's like 6 books in this thing, so it's big.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
uh,
wondering. I thought I thought book two should put us almost at a third, but we aren't there yet. So I forgot to add more.
so the next section I have here highlighted is free. Um, Maori from the legacy of our fathers, we shall never be free. This is the bargain me made, and then I made no such bargain December.
Mm,
Nevertheless, Beru, mortal desire gives us shape. Mortal desire dragged us all into their realms. It was not enough that we ascended, not enough that we should seek out our own destinies. I tell you, through most of me still walks a distant world, and his howls of betrayal deafen me. In curse and prayer, I am knotted here like a fist. Do I desire worship? I do not. Do I seek ever greater power? I have been shown its futility, and now all purpose settles like ash upon my soul. Here we are trapped, and so we shall remain. Because that fool master sacrificed Camasad's theft. The fallen one was wounded, made useless with pain, and with that master's cursed blessing, he raised the house of chains, and with those chains, he bound us all.
mm,
And I think they're talking about being bound in the deck.
mm-hmm.
These elder gods,
Yeah.
which is a different perspective than what we've seen, because we've seen mortals' perspective towards the gods, their viewpoint of the gods. Now we're seeing a different perspective of gods who just wanted to walk their own path
Mm,
in ascension, and they're being forced down into the mortal realm with mortal desires by worship.
mm, yeah.
And I was just like, I'm looking at all that, and I'm just like, that's um, an interesting dynamic, because what would the gods be without any worship?
Yeah.
And it makes you think about that. And um, would they seek greater power? What's the point of having the power without there being mortals who are worshipped? And are these chains that are forged between mortals and gods chains of what's the word I'm looking for? Chains that they want.
Mm.
You know, there's chains that bound people by by force, but there's also chains that we build on our own.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of questions here
Yeah.
about religion and faith and how it works and how the the concept of the relationship between mortals and gods are laid out and how they work with each other. Just it's
Yeah.
something that you know, I guess philosophers can take it on and endlessly argue about, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. It's so mm, they thought that they were getting more freedom or more power, but they are still bound by the mortal desire that gave them shape. And I guess in some sense, I guess the mythological aspect of a god is only as powerful as the number of worshippers they have. I I don't think that's necessarily true in this world, right? But there is still like they for those gods that do, they are not free from their followers. Like someone, people so weak can have power over them when compare the raw strength of the god versus their followers. Um, yeah, there's a lot to think about there for sure.
yeah, and there's also there's a sense of balance that you can't just have these ascendants having power and being free and on their own.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of balance there that if you're gonna have this, you gotta have that. You can't just there's like the master of the deck, was he did he come into existence because that balance wasn't there?
Yeah,
You know, was he required to come into existence? And they're complaining about that. The master of the deck and the fallen one dispelled the illusion or
yeah.
or delusions, depending on how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's just fascinating. Just a fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
fascinating topic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then just a little past that, uh, we shall slay a fellow god before his heart is sundered, before the unnoble woman can ever reach the fallen one, or attempt whatever it is she intends. We shall kill him.
Mm.
And then, of course, she's warned not to so easily discard her. Um, we're reminded she's the sister of Paran, the master of the deck,
Mm.
and it's kind of interesting that they have these plans, and these plans are going to be once again thwarted by mortal desires and mortal plans.
Yeah. This this wretched family from that wretched empire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's really cool, and
Yeah.
and of course, then the cane cracks against the bones.
Mm.
Um, and who shows up, and
Shadow Throne.
yeah. So these once again we get this unbelievable dialogue between these gods and stuff like that. New gods and old gods and elder gods, and um, they're not all on the same page.
Yeah. And not quite gods because Silkus Ruin. That's Anamandarik's brother, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, just very cool stuff. Um, next, I got a little reminder about adjunct lawn
Mm.
from way back in Gardens of the Moon. And she believed it was the murder of the emperor that had broken the human empire's alliance with the Logros Talana Mas. She was wrong.
Mm.
And it says the blood you should have spilled, you should have heeded, was the same Eltor's, not Kellenvid's. And for all that, neither man truly died, but only one bore the deadly kiss of Hood in all the days that followed. Only one stood before Hood himself and learned of the terrible thing Logros had done to him. And of course, we know that as
Traveler.
Traveler, who was the Sem, Eltor, who was the, the mortal sword of Hood,
Hmm.
who was the one who ended up killing Amanda Rake in how Toll the Hounds.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting viewpoint. That who was making that point? I don't remember that.
Oh no, Stulan? No. Yes.
Who's speaking about Adric Lorne there? Whose viewpoint is this?
So they are speaking to Onostulan. Maybe the previous page will have their name.
Yeah.
Oh, some Logros Emas.
Logros. Oh, one of the one of the Talanamas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a different perspective of Gardens of the Moon, and
Yeah.
what we knew back then is completely different or opposite of what we know now, or what we're being told now. We're being told now to look at it another way,
Yeah.
and so it's just it's pretty cool, pretty fascinating that it all ties in together way back to the beginning.
There's I didn't remember this. Dasim and his daughter, they were Hood's knife striking at us. We haven't met his daughter in this series, right? And have you met him in met her in Esselmon's books?
Oh, Dassam's daughter. Where does it say that? Oh yeah. Yes. Shoot. Where did we see her? I didn't Whiskey Jack run into her at one point?
Did he?
Or he mentioned, I think she was mentioned in Memories of Ice at some point,
Okay.
that they had a history, Whiskey Jack and his daughter, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I can't
Okay.
remember exactly what it was. Yeah. Let's see here. We already got that. All right. Oh yeah, and then there's this nice little these Malazans. They shame the gods themselves.
Yes.
And that's Briss's thoughts, and we already know how much he admires these Malazans.
Yeah.
It's just it's kind of just reasserts our own feelings as we're going through the book, and we're rooting for the Malazans at this point.
Yeah.
It's in spite of some of the crappy shit they did way back in the beginning of the series, where you didn't quite know who to root for. Now we're rooting for them. Of course, they're in these dire straits in this desert and all that stuff. So I think that makes sense. All right. So depending from a cross bridge of iron, the cloth was a tattered, rectangle of colorless wool. It was in fact a fair copy of Tohol's blanket, almost to scale, and where one might expect some elegant, proud heraldic crest, the center there was instead the new royal sigil of King Tohol, the only. I love that, the only. A 3/4 rendition of his brother's rooftop bed, and if one looked carefully, one would see cowering beneath the bed a row of sick, plucked but living hens. That cracked me up. I'm like, in what situation could, in any fantasy, like serious fantasy, epic, dire events going on, do you get a kingdom represented by a rendition of a rooftop bed with chickens under it
On a blanket.
in the blanket. Just, oh man, that cracked me up, and it was just the right amount of humor that you needed
Yes.
at certain points in this book, because you're crying the whole time, and it's just like this. This is funny. This is great.
Yeah.
Just good stuff there.
Mhm.
All right, so now we have yes. So now even the ground under us is uncertain, and
Mm.
I thought this was a great metaphor um,
Mm.
at the time because this was um, this was Aranek speaking to Briss
Mm.
about the water. Yeah, there was an ancient bed lake here
Mhm.
where they're at, and the water's gone, and he's asking, might we fall through? And of course, they have been speaking the whole time about their relationship
Mm.
between Aranek and Briss. And I thought that line was an excellent metaphorical line for the nature of their relationship and the state it's in, because the ground is uncertain. They
Yeah.
don't know. They've spoken previously about they don't know how to proceed with their relationship and their love for each other. So the ground is uncertain,
Yeah.
and uh, in the relationship as well as physically where they're at right now.
Yes.
And so I just thought it was a great metaphor,
Yeah.
and just another great line. And this is my last one from book 4. Um, where does loyalty come from? What causes it to be born? What lifts one person above all the others so that one chooses to follow him or her? Him. Uh, is it nothing but our own desperation? Is it, as the Condrels say, the vast crow's wings stretching over us? Do we
Mm.
yearn for the shelter of competence, real or imagined, true or delusional?
Mm.
I just thought that was a cool statement.
Yeah. It is. It
Uh,
really is.
and it's a good question. You know, do
Mm.
do we do we yearn for the shelter of competence,
Mhm.
whether or not that competence actually exists? Is that something we seek? Is it something we seek out?
Yeah.
You know,
And is that why we become loyal to people?
yeah. Well, that's why I read whatever books Varsha tells me to.
uh,
But yeah, so that is it's a good question, and I think it's a question that relates to many of the characters in this book as well.
yeah.
When you look at people like Fisk Kenneb, who's quite incompetent, and
Mhm.
what kind of illusion does needs to be shattered when following somebody like that compared to following somebody like Tavor Paran.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. And Kenneb isn't the one who steals the water, right? That's a different fist.
oh, is it? I forget which one.
Or I don't remember. Is it? I thought Kenneb is just incompetent, and there's a different one who's more cruel and steals water. Or maybe
Uh,
they're the same person. But
yeah, I thought it was Kenna, but I could be mistaken.
yeah, no, you're probably right. I don't remember names very well.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of names.
Yeah.
um, all right, so we've been going at this for almost 2 hours now, and we have over half a book to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking we call this part 1,
Yes. Sounds good to me.
and then we'll get together again for part 2
Yeah.
of the Crippled God. All right, so for now, um, Varsha, we can of course always find you at Reading by the Rainy Mountain, and we're both on podcasts, Speculative Speculations, and other pagechewing.com type of podcast.
Yes.
Yes. And so thanks for wandering blindly through my notes with me. And
It was a lot of fun.
and hopefully we'll get together soon again and go through the second half of the Crippled God to talk more about the events, and maybe we'll get through the notes of the rest of the book, and we'll get some overall bigger picture thoughts at the end of it.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
All right, cool. All right, so for everybody out there listening, be good to each other, and thank you.
Thank you, Jared.